Hi guys, this is show number 84. It's Tuesday the 19th of August 2014. Now Yah has finished this latest PowerPoint focusing, well actually it leads into the marvel of the 3168, the key of the house of David. David, when multiplied, D times A times V times I times D, the number values in simple gematria, adds up to 3168. That is the key of the house of David, the 3168. The measure of the earth, the moon, the sun is based upon 3168, which is the Greek gematria for the Lord Jesus Christ. Lord 800, Jesus 888, plus 1480, Christ, add them together equals 3168. And this is the meaning of Isaiah 22:22, when it talks about laying upon his shoulders the key of the house of David. And it goes on to talk about that one whose shoulders it is laid upon opens doors that cannot be shut by men, and closes doors that cannot be opened by men. It is all to do with the measure of his temple, which is the earth, and his altar to himself, which is the Great Pyramid in Giza, the center of the land mass on the earth, placed there very specifically, built by angels. It is the record and the memorial of the Lord Jesus Christ, and identifies who he is in his second incarnation. That man already announced in March 2013 by Pope Benedict XVI is Brian Leonard Golightly Marshall, who has been explaining to the world since 1991, when he could get onto a computer, have the computer programs, all of the tools, technological tools necessary in this day and hour to reveal himself as God in the flesh, the Lord Jesus Christ, on the earth, to a mankind who has been totally devoured and deluded, distracted and demoralized by the enemy of all mankind, the same that put him on the cross and are condemned today. These are the Jews who call themselves Jews and are not. So that being said, I'm going to go around to the other side of the table and start the narration on the... When I get to... Because this is being uploaded at the YouTube site, it's very visual. I'm going to be reading the text as far as I can go. But the wonder, when we get into the 3168, the wonder of these measurements is too much for me to even attempt to explain to you. I will explain as much as I'm able to convey to you. But stop the video on the YouTube, download it, and then study each of the drawings and just marvel. This is what blows apart the theory, the lies of the evolutionists propagated. It's all from the Jews. The last thing they want the masses to know and understand is that the Creator, the Lord Jesus Christ, is on the earth with them. Game over, Rover. And that's literally what it was when Pope Benedict announced from left field in their world that the Christ is indeed Brian Leonard Golightly Marshall. So, here we go.
Okay. Sounds a bit like the Holy Grail running out a big duck, isn't it?
Now we need the clip-clop of the coconuts as the horses are passing by. Try not to back into the way of the screen. All right. So the number of creation is based on the value of the alpha and omega, the beginning and the end of the Greek alphabet, with the number 1 and 800 being the Father and the Lord. The first letter of the Greek alphabet tells us it is a sign more important than the Old Testament Hebrew Aramaic corruption, all pointing to the Gospels of the Greek New Testament as being the fulfillment of Essene prophecy encoded in the structure of the earth. All of the patriarchs were Essene. Their Hebrew names have a total gematria of 3168. Job and Isaiah were also Essene, and I, Jesus, was then and am today an Essene. Therefore, Jesus and I add to the second coming the Comforter, the Trinity are one. In Greek, Lord is 800, Jesus 888, and Christ 1480, to total 3168. The death of my flesh on the cross was caused when my blood containing the immortal soul of God bled from my wounds. This removed my soul, leaving the flesh to die impaled on the cross. This released my soul to be worn over the reincarnated flesh today, a garment over a sinless newborn baby, Christ, genetically of the most royal lineage, the soul of God Almighty poured out from the cross. Is it not remotely possible the Creator of the universe would come again and identify himself by genetic miracles via family members, that is a half-brother, 8.88 years old, when Christ was reborn on January 11th, 1944, in Sydney, Australia, when the sunrise to moonrise was 888 minutes. This slide is the solar eclipse, the last to occur in 2012 on November the 14th. It measures 942 miles from the rebirth location of the Christ, where it crosses the 25 degrees south latitude. The distance to the South Pole, the crib where the Christ lay for 942 days at 105 Rothschild Avenue, Rosebery, Sydney, Australia, it measures to the South Pole in nautical miles 3,875. That number, 3875, in the James Strong's Greek Concordance, is the number for the Comforter. New Zealand is worthy to note. It measures 888 miles between its north and south latitude. Now, why at the end of 105 Rothschild Avenue is there a Harcourt Avenue? Well, we moved to the town of Harcourt September the 8th, 2009. Now, in Harcourt is Eagle Road. When we measure from the south of Eagle Road to my crib and back to North Eagle Road, the total is 888 miles, and the number 105 is eagle in the Greek Concordance. These slides are showing the measures from the rebirth location on Rothschild Avenue to the northern and southern end, back again, round trip, 888 miles. Now, tracking the bends and curves along Eagle Road, it reveals that the road itself is 3.43 kilometres long, 343 in Greek from 305 in the sense of reversal, and 2572 to unveil, open, that is, taken away, as in taking away the veil. Harcourt Parade indicates the town of Harcourt. 105 Rothschild Avenue identifies the beast, that is Rothschild family, set to devour the baby. And 105 is eagle, tells us the baby was taken away to safety. We are reading the physical facts as biblical prophecy, identifying the beast and the Christ via the 888 Jesus gematria, as well as being born on a date when the sunrise to moonrise was 888 minutes and 8.88 years after my stepbrother. The word eagle is dual meaning, an angel that devours the flesh of mortal bodies, referring to the Revelation 12:14, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that number 105, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. As a child, I was mortified by glimpses of the future path I had to take. I offset it by humour, or when, as a baby, moaning at night in dreams, my mother would call out to me to dream about Donald Duck. Eventually, more often than not, I learned to lucid dream. When a nightmare would come, I was able to stand back and be in control, as if semi-awake. Unfortunately, I had the mind of an adult when it came to logic and could grasp complex issues, like knowing from my memory that the Great Pyramid was the only building which was in both the ancient and modern of the 7 wonders of the world. My half-brother, 8.88 years older than I, told me while at Rothschild Avenue, I was about 2 years old, correcting him that the Great Pyramid was in both. Another occasion he arrived home saying Albert Einstein's theory of relativity and how a light beam shone out into space would bend and come back and hit the back of one's head. I said it was wrong. I had no need to ask who Einstein was, but I knew it was not true. The diagrams show the rebirth date of the Christ, 11th January 1944, until the time he left that Rothschild Avenue address, 10th of August 1946, a distance of 942 days. And then on the right, from the rebirth date, 11th of January, until Monday, the 17th of June. Now, the 17th of June in the year 2 BC was the birth date as Jesus. However, he was 888 days old on the 17th of June in 1946. We moved to 3 Old Botany Road on the 222nd day of 1946, which was August the 10th. I was 942 days old. 942 is the verse total for the name Jesus in the KJV 1611 Bible, and is why there are thousands of changes to the original. The first just 3 years later in 1614. I knew that I was more advanced intellectually than all around me, constantly frustrating, annoying, manifesting nightmares of entrapment, leading me to conclude there had to be a way out of the asylum. Obviously, I had been reborn into hell. 942 days is 2.579 years. When you add 280 days of gestation to 942, it totals 1,222, or 1222, which is 3.3457232 years. 3345 is burning. This leads to the book of Daniel, and there's a great big blank on this. Can you see that, huh?
Yeah, that's all it is Daniel. You go
Daniel,
across.
All right.
It's 3.6.
Okay, yeah. 3345, Daniel. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Looks like a square's been placed down. Daniel 3:25, quoting, "He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." Then 3:26, "Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace, and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire."
See, Daniel was an Essene. He's identified by the fact they wouldn't eat meat.
Yes. Now, as the Star of Bethlehem was a conjunction between Jupiter and Venus, which occurred on June 17, 2 BC, and Jupiter is 88,800 plus miles wide, then how old was I on June the 17th, 1946? Well, we've already seen this in the previous slide, 888 days old. Add gestation of 280 days equals 3.19786762 years, and 3197 in Greek concordance is my king. 3197 Melchi of Hebrew, or 4428, my king, Melchi. When I was 8,880 days old, I was in Port Alberni, BC, Canada. My daughter was born. It was May the 4th, 1968, when the sunrise to sunset was 888 minutes. She was conceived when Jupiter was overhead for 888 minutes, which was July the 29th, 1967. Her sister Nicole was born on November the 2nd, 1977 in Quesnel, BC, Canada. The longitude was 122.22 west, latitude north 5258.253. The distance between the two locations where they were conceived is 4,443. No, it's not. It's 440.3 kilometres. It's my editing.
444.3.
444.3 kilometres. That's my mistake there. I missed that dot. This leads to the Great Pyramid, and my third wife, Mary Magdalene, reincarnate, Michelle Sheila Nye, who was born 1162.6 days after myself. Her daughter Rhiannon, gematria of 255, born December the 20th, 1979. She is 777 days younger than my youngest born in Quesnel, that was Nicole. Nicole has a gematria of 58. Rhiannon was born 11.626 years after my eldest daughter, Tracy Lee, with a gematria of 96. My daughter's mother and I married on April the 23rd, 1966, when I was 1162.6 weeks old, which is 22.28 years. In the Strong's Concordance Hebrew side, 1966 is Lucifer. The antechamber of the Great Pyramid is 116.26 pyramid inches wide. The value of Matthew 1:23 in Greek gematria is 8,880. The word Emmanuel is the number 1694 in the Strong's Concordance. Put it all together, the antechamber 116.26 pyramid inches, which is the age I married, 1162.6 weeks, the age between Michelle and I, 1162.6 days, her daughter Rhiannon and my oldest daughter, 11.626 years. Rhiannon and my youngest, 777 or 2.127 years apart. And Michelle was 32.75 years old on her, Rhiannon's, birth date. Now the height of Australia's highest mountain is 2,228 metres, which is 7,309 feet. It is Mount Kosciuszko. It is 169.4 nautical miles, measuring to 150 Nell Street, Greensboro, Victoria, where my home with Michelle, who was Mary Magdalene, was. The Emmanuel number is 1694. In Matthew 1:23, with the gematria of 8,880, which is the age I was in days when Tracy was born, May the 4th, 1968. This links to the 888 minutes of Jupiter and the Jesus gematria. Now Rhiannon was born in Geelong, Victoria on December the 20th, 1979, when the sunrise to sunset was also 888 minutes. Now measuring from Mount Kilimanjaro to Mount Kosciuszko to Nell Street, the 169.4 nautical miles back to Kilimanjaro contains an area of 429,226 square nautical miles. and is the age difference between my first wife, Eileen, born November the 8th, 1942, and I on January the 11th, 1944. The 226 is the length of the Queen's chamber. There is it's a sliver, it's like a thorn, the inside of the triangle.
429 is God in Hebrew.
Yes. Now in 1987 I had carried out work for a Freemason Jew who was attempting to rip me off for $20,000, discounting the total owed to just $4,050. When I confronted him for final payment, he started to write out a cheque for $4,050 made out to B. Marshall. I stopped him, and he said if the police were involved, who would they believe, he, an upstanding businessman, or me? I replied, who would my uncle believe, he, the head of the taxation department? He would send the tax agents to investigate his fraud with Telstra. He had been paid $250,000 more than a contract was worth with the government Telstra telephone company. The payment due to a bribe for a large amount won in his bid. It was quite common in Australia that government contracts were handed out to anyone in the know who bribed the officials. An angel told me to go back to Canada. I left on May the 11th, 1989 and returned on October the 8th, 1996 to be arrested at the airport charged with fraud. This man's partner, years earlier, discovered the missing $20,000 as he, Mr. Burns, had been so confident that he had spent it all on women and gambling. The cheque was, number one, not made out to me. Number two, it was cashed by my wife, and bank cheques from his bank made out to her sister for a debt and payment for building materials. Number three, the written amount was not altered and was initialed. No fraud, but it was a miracle in the making. I went to trial and defending myself, making certain I would be found guilty. By admitting to the jury I had done it. It was simply agreeing with the facts. In 1999, I was at my nephew's farm on an errand for my brother. I entered a large storage trailer. The kitchen cupboard door swung open and a book fell open, landing on the table at page 255. The book was Australian Mercantile Law, 9th edition. It was the ruling banking laws for Australia. An angel spoke, do the numbers. I looked up and said, what? Do the numbers. It was December the 4th, 1999, at 9 a.m. The distance to the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars and Jupiter from the Earth was 8.88 astronomical units. And the very crime I had been charged with, customer's cheque altered. The vowels total 3168 on page 255, and there's a photograph of the very book with Yar's handwriting noting the date and time. I had rented tools from Coates Hire. The business was located on property my uncle had owned when I was a child, now owned by the hire company. It is customary for a cheque to be signed and left until the rental tools were returned. The man Burns had said he would pay the rental and rip up my deposit cheque. He didn't. And so the cheque was made out and bounced. And add to that was the bank fee for the not sufficient funds. It was $6.50. Here's a photograph of the two cheques made out to Coates Hire and the one below to B and then crossed out P. Marshall. And the date on the bottom one was the day before Yar's birthday, the 10th of the 1st, 1989. He would have turned 45.
So you see there the P. Marshall and its initials.
Yes.
And what had happened in a panic when he thought that my uncle was going to come in with his agents and go through the company and he'd be found guilty of the $250,000 kickback. He said to me, fill it out for what I owe you, and slid the cheque across to me, and I wrote in with my handwriting the $24,000 and $40.
$50, yeah.
$50 rather. And there's a number there, and there's a very good reason for that. Of course, and then he signed it.
Right.
So you said the cheque hasn't been altered, it's in my handwriting because he said fill it out what I owe you.
Right. So moving along, we're for the coach hire cheque, we've got the amount of $306.94, adding the dishonour fee totals 313.44, so it's another miracle. 3069 in Hebrew is God, Yahweh, and Greek 3134 is Maranatha, of Aramaic origin and exclamation of the approaching divine judgment. Now Michelle, the mother of Rhiannon, was raised on Dundas Street, Preston in Melbourne. The distance to the South Pole from that address was 3134 nautical miles. Also from Pope Benedict XVI's rebirth to retirement announcement is 31348 days. That's the date calendar down there on bottom left, and then the measurement from Dundas Street to the South Pole when Michelle was reborn, Dundas Street 3134, Maranatha. Now, from the South Pole to Nell Street, where my home with Michelle is, which she sold on February 11th, 2011, while I was in Fiji, establishing cure-all clinics, health clinics. She absconded, stealing all the proceeds. I did not care. She is Mary Magdalene, who had 7 devils driven out. Unfortunately, the next life, the devils come back, each with 7 more, making the person worse than she was before. Quoting from Matthew 12:44, then he saith, I will return into my house from whence I came out. And when he is come, he findeth it empty, swept and garnished. Then goeth he and taketh with himself 7 other spirits more wicked than himself, and they enter in and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. Even so shall it be also unto this wicked generation. So it's talking about the reincarnation of the souls who were present in that generation of the crucifixion. So how do we know the home she inherited from her mother was identified with her? First of all, her mother, a cruel, wicked woman, lived at 666 Main Road, Alfred. So you've got the main 666. The house she inherited and I paid the mortgage on, as well as rebuilt it, is on a latitude that measures 31,680 kilometres around the Earth and 5,813 kilometres from the South Pole. But in miles is her name. Mary is 3137 and the distance is 3137.4 nautical miles. Quoting from Mark 16:9, now when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 devils. Greek Dictionary 169 of 2508, impure, foul, unclean, especially demonic. In Greek, Mary 3137, Maria or Mariam, of Hebrew origin 4813. It's also the name of 6 Christian females, Mary. I had cleansed her and warned her that in the end time she would be set upon by devils far worse than her sins at that time. But she chose the other part. Reading from Luke 10:38. Now it came to pass as they went that he entered into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha, hello, received him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, which also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was cumbered about, much serving, and came to him and said, Lord, dost thou not care that my sister hath left me to serve alone? Bid her therefore that she help me. And Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful, and Mary hath chosen that good part, which shall not be taken away from her. Now that good part was good in her mind, right?
That's
and
right.
that was the part to do.
Well, she thought she could handle it, and she couldn't.
Right.
She thought she could come back and resist the demons that would have come back and enter into her. So it was 7 driven out, 56 coming back at birth. And of course she lived up to every word of it. Evil as the day is long.
Now, these women, referring to the wives, number 1, well, 1, 2 and 3, but 1 and 3 focusing here, were required to act on behalf of their master Lucifer, the Jews' god. My first wife, the town harlot, a horrid demonic spirit, no decent man would marry, but I was told to do so. Then my third, Michelle, to also bring forth a child, 11.626 years younger than Tracy Lee, and Michelle, 1162.6 days younger than I. In a verse, these numbers come together. The idea is to have absolute proof of who I am and have them interact via birth dates and time differences between them to reveal Michelle at 32.75 years old giving birth to Rhiannon, and she, Rhiannon, being 777 days or 2.127 years younger than my youngest, Nicole. Now 2127 is Zia in Hebrew and 3275 is Yakan. So rare, they are only found once, but mathematically already identified by the birth dates. These solitary names are side by side in 1 Chronicles 5:13. Absolutely extraordinary, as the Old Testament has over 650,000 words, and this is mother and daughter side by side in the same verse.
And my daughters.
And your daughters, yes. So reading Luke 6:23, rejoice ye in that day and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven. For in the like manner did their fathers unto the prophets. So we're talking about the Jews who crucified them. Leap, Greek dictionary 4640, akin to skip, to jump, sympathetically move as the quickening of a fetus, leap for joy. A baby in the womb. We measure to the moon at the moment in time of Julian day 2431101, this being the number in the Pyramid King's Chamber. The number in 1 Chronicles is 31106, the combined Strong's numbers of the 7 names found in 1 Chronicles 5:13, in which we have Yakan 3275 and Zia 2127. So see below.
So let me explain that. The 31101, which I'll identify in the Great Pyramid, that's the Julian day, 2431101. That is on my birth date. It's in the afternoon, and the distance you can now measure because we're looking for the specific number of 31101. And with that program there, Home Planet, we can easily place the moon in its latitude and longitude, then from there calculate with Magellan software, not Google Earth, because it is wrong. And I've proven that 3 times in a row, how they keep changing. When I put numbers out, they keep on changing the Google Earth.
The database.
The database. So it's quite clever how they do it, really, but pathetic in a way. The Jews are quite stupid. By doing something stupid like that, they are actually identifying their own stupidity.
Right.
Now, with Lumination 260, and that's how many chapters there are in the New Testament.
Yes, this is on your birth date, 2431101.
Now, King James, you must remember that he was anointed upon the rock of the Scone. He was the first legitimate king in England to be anointed upon this rock of the Scone. And the rock of the Scone was held privately in Scone Castle, which was built by King William the Lion of Scotland, my ancestor, and stolen by Edward I on the 4th of July. That gives you a clue, United States. So the 4th of July in 1296, I think it was. At that time, they was holding the competition for who was going to be King of Scotland, because Alexander II had died, or Alexander III had died, and he was the half-brother to the Golightly line. And of course the Golightly should have been king at that point, but they withdrew Patrick Golightly withdrew from the competition. It was called the 13 Competitors.
Alright, moving right along. So here we go. I was reborn on Julian date 2431100.18194, being 2:22 a.m. And then later it becomes, hours later, well into the day, it becomes 31101. Then the total of the 7 names is 31106. So we subtract 31101, leaving 5, and 5 is Father in Greek, Abba, A-B-B-A. Now dividing the 7 names, 31106, by 7 to get an average, it's 4443.714. 4443 is the number of occasions the word God is found in 3877 verses, and 3877 is the distance in miles from the maternity ward to the South Pole in miles. The 714 is the verse in Isaiah 7:14 with the word Emmanuel, which is Emmanuel in Greek and means God with us. 1694, this the distance from Mount Kosciuszko to Nell Street, Greensboro, 169.4 nautical miles, as we showed in the earlier slide. Quoting, therefore, the Lord himself shall give you a sign. This is Isaiah 7:14. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. So we have the name God with us and a sign. Reading Luke 2:12, and this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. Matthew 1:23, quoting, behold, a virgin shall be with child and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. These are the 7 names mentioned in 1 Chronicles 5:13. The total there, 31106, divided by the 7, 4443.7142. Now, this is the Grand Gallery of the pyramid here, the distances along the Grand Gallery through the antechamber, the 116.26 pyramid inches wide, into the King's Chamber, then measuring to the coffer, the far wall, etc. So, when you have the distance from the Grand Gallery through to the far wall of the King's Chamber, 537.0278, adding the 286.1, which is the distance to the King's coffer, then 230.05379 inches, which is the height to the ceiling of the King's Chamber. Add them all up and it totals 1053.18159. When you multiply that number by a lunation, which is 29.53052 days, it totals 31101, the Julian day that the Christ was reborn on. Divided by the 7 equals 4443, which is the total amount of times the word God is found within 3877 verses, which is the distance from St. Margaret's Catholic maternity ward where the Christ lay after he was born, measuring to the South Pole, 3877 nautical miles. Okay. So these are the locations in Canada where my daughters were conceived, Port Alberni and Quesnel. You can see there the distance between them when measuring as the crow flies, 444.3 kilometres. The number of times God is found. So we have measured time by the moon lunation, 29.53052 days. Now we have a check. This is going back lots of slides before, getting back to the check where Yah was charged with fraud. That was not so, however, he wore it because it brought forth a miracle. So the check was for $24,050, which as lunations are the total between the Jesus birth date of June 17th, 2 BC and January the 11th, 1944. Can I have a hello?
Yeah, but it's a couple of minutes out.
Okay. Now we have ignorant family members who could not care less about anything apart from demonic inclinations that I have had to either produce from a harlot or find the immature demonic Mary Magdalene. And even though the proof is absolute, her offspring included, all they are concerned with is their own lusts. The point being that related to me genetically or not, thus far not one, this is the family members, has or will be forgiven. They will not be with us in paradise. And therefore all Jews take note. You have no hope. So think of this, that Christ condemns his own family members. They are not going to make it. They will never be forgiven. So what hope have the Jews got? None.
There is a prophecy not to offend the Holy Ghost, because you will not be forgiven. And these people have offended me from the moment I met them.
Yeah. As Michelle said to me once, I know you are Jesus, but there must be another God above you. I answered, yes, there is. I was Jesus. Now I am the Father, back on the earth to judge. We come now to the measure of the earth. Before life existed, the design of the earth was carried out. Understanding that the languages and numbers were all in my mind, and that allowing the false Jews to be the offspring of the devil, all to do with your greatest gift, which is free will. Then the earth, being the original planet before the sun existed, is an obvious and necessary step, and is why I said from John 14:2, in my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. Is it not obvious the design is perfect? And once the Jews are culled, I will create many planets on this model, based on my children to come. I am here for the children of the future. The following drawings are absolute. The earth is entirely based on the number 3168. We took our cures to New Guinea in 2008. New Guinea became independent from Australia and England when I was 31.68 years of age. Pope Benedict XVI had no idea of all these things. He saw my face and believed. He said that this is what Christ would do, simply save the sick and dying. So New Guinea's independence date, 16th of September 1975, 31.68 years.
What date was he? 86.74, which is 31680 days.
He was
my birthday, wasn't it?
Yes, your 70th birthday this year.
There you go.
January 11th, 2014.
Same date that Ariel Sharon died.
Yes, hello. Now, the dried bones of man ground and poured in a pile form the pi angle, the angle of repose. It is the same as the face angle of the Great Pyramid, as does the Earth and Moon numbers. Now, this is moving along to these fabulous 22 drawings that angels put into
This is just one drawing of the 22.
Yes, this is one of the 22. I'd advise you to stop the videos, download them, go through these. These are astonishing. I'll just read the text at the top. You look at the drawings and just get a grip on where this is going. Simple geometric relationships between relevant units of measure reveal the 3168 signature everywhere, showing that the units of measure and the solar system design have one source. And the first known use of those units of measure was in the cosmic design, with the 3168 signatures before man existed. For example, the Earth's 31680 furlong radius equator turned 0.3168 Roman miles per second while orbiting the 31680 megalithic miles diameter of the Sun, which is, so we've got the 31680 megalithic miles, that's the diameter of the Sun, and that diameter of the Sun is 31680 Roman leagues for the radius. So half the diameter of the Sun, which is the radius, equals 31680 Roman leagues. I've been doing some conversions, I'll get to them later. The bottom line is a megalithic mile is equal to 3 Roman miles, and a Roman mile is equal to 1.5 Roman leagues. So a megalithic mile is, 2 Roman leagues. Now here we go on to another, let's just call them 1, 2, 3.
Well, what I've done here is taken as ones from the previous drawing.
The previous, right, and broken them down.
And broke them up so you can see them on a larger screen.
Okay, so we're looking at 4 different squares here, numbered 1, 2, 6 and 7. So you've got the square, there's a circle divided into 3 parts, each circle, with the square touching the circumference on 4 sides of the circle. So the square equals 1 acre. And then inside that, you've got the top third in pink, which is 316.8 squared fathoms, which equals 3168000 squared Roman digits. Then you've got on the right the blue area, then on the left the white area. Well, they are equal. They equal 316.8 squared fathoms, each of those. Moving over to the second square. This time the measure is 1 rood. That is R-O-O-D. So that top portion that is pink is 316.8 squared yards, and then down below 2 equal portions of 316.8 squared yards. Now in the third square, you've got 1 squared rod, this time R-O-D. The pink portion at the top is 1 chain perimeter square, but down below the 2 equal portions, the blue and the white, each are 31.68 squared English cubits. Square number 4, the perimeter is 1 squared mile. In the top pink section, it equals 0.3168 squared Roman miles, which is 31680 something radius. I can't see what that note is. It might be
square.
Is it square? Radius? Oh, I don't think so.
Come on.
Anyway, and then down below the 2 equal measures of 0.3168 squared Roman miles. Hold on, folks. This is just slide 1. So in the next slide, we've got a squared furlong, a squared chain, a squared league, and a squared gunter pace. Going back to the furlong, the top pink section, 31680 inches perimeter square, 3168 squared fathoms, 2 equal portions down below, 3168 squared fathoms. Moving over to the squared chain is 3168 inch perimeter square on the outside, which is 31.68 squared fathoms, and the same down below, 31.68 fathoms. Moving over to the 1 squared league, it is 0.3168 squared megalithic miles, which is 3.168 Old English miles in diameter, and then down below 2 equal measurements of 0.3168 megalithic miles. Going over to a squared gunter pace, which I believe is 31.68 inches. So the top pink portion is 31.68 squared Roman palms, which is 31.68 inches in diameter, and down below this equal measure of 31.68 Roman palms. Now a Roman palm, it is, from what I worked out, 2.88 inches, English inches, But there's 4 of them in a Roman foot. Anyway, so this is a repeat of...
Just read the bottom line there, you missed it last time.
Oh, down the bottom, okay. Reading the bottom line on this one before, this 18,247.68 foot circumference circle is circumference circle is 1 inch to 1 Roman league scale model of a 18,247.68 Roman league circumference great circle of the Earth.
Now, do you think that's enough for him, or what?
Oh, look, this just keeps going on, and this is why I'm going to run out.
Give him a bit more.
Yeah, I'll keep going. Here we go. Now we've got a squared link, a squared yard, a squared reed, and a squared geographic Greek cubit. So going back to the link, the top pink portion is 31.68 squared Roman digits, which equals 31.68 inches perimeter square, which equals 1 gunter pace. And then down below, 31.68 Roman digits equally. The next one, over to yards. The top pink is 0.3168 squared megalithic yards, and then down below, equal measure of the same figure. Down to the third square is a squared reed, which is the pink portion, 31.68 squared Roman feet, and the same down below. They are all equal portions. Then, in the fourth square, you've got a squared geographic Greek cube. So you've got a model of a pyramid cube drawn inside the circle. It has a radius of 3.168 Roman palms, a diameter of 0.003168 Roman miles. Moving on to the next. Now we've got pyramid geographic mile circumference, geographic league circumference, geographic stado, is that stado or stado circumference, and then a squared yard. So, alright, geographic mile circumference is 316,800 squared great cubits, all equal portions there. The next one, 3 equal portions, 0.3168 squared miles, that's for the one pyramid geographic league circumference. Then the one Greek geographic stado circumference is 3168 squared great cubits. And then the squared yards is 0.3168 squared megalithic yards. There it is all together again, a repeat before, just study this. This is the relationship. Oh, here we go. Then you've got the cube inside the circle. You've got a squared Greek cubit. Radius, oh, we already did that. So the pyramid geographic mile circumference, I think we already did that too. And then the pyramid geographic league circumference, which is 0.3168 squared miles, equal proportions. And then a Greek geographic stado circumference, 3168 squared great cubits, all equal proportions in the 3 of them. So, here we go. Those are repeating themselves at the top there. And then we've got scale models of a squared chain, 1 inch to 1 megalithic mile scale model, great circle of the moon. Then below that is a squared furlong. This is a 1 inch to 1 mile scale model, great circle of the Earth. Then in the middle, the orange one is the sun. Now, the sun is 316,800 Roman leagues in radius, which is 316,800 megalithic miles in diameter. So remember that the megalithic mile is equal to 3 Roman miles, and so a Roman league is 1.5 Roman miles. So, all right. Now the square around the scale model in the top left there of the circle of the moon is 3168 perimeter, that's inches, perimeter square. Remember, these are scale model in inches. So looking over to the right there, number 16, 3168 megalithic mile perimeter square around the moon. Down the bottom to the Earth, pointing toward the left there, you've got the square is 31680 inch perimeter square, and then 31680 mile perimeter square around the Earth to the right there. So the Earth is a 1 chain to 1 Roman league scale model of the Sun. Of course it is. These are all in proportions. So, moving over to the right-hand side, number 10 and 7, you've got 1 squared league, and below that 1 squared mile, where a 3.168 Old English mile square equals 1 squared league. Now, inside that blue circle is 1 league diameter equals 3.168 Old English miles, or 2,640 fathoms. The diameter of the Earth is 2,640 leagues. So this is a 1 fathom to 1 league scale model great circle of the Earth. Okay, looking back to the moon, the grey moon there. The moon is a 1 megalithic mile to 10 statute mile scale model of the Earth, with a 3168 megalithic mile perimeter square. See the purple moon down there? In the middle it says 31680 furlongs radius, but it has a 31680 mile perimeter square. Purple arrow again, that's confirming the radius, but over toward the right, pointing to the blue circle down the bottom right, this is a 1 inch to 1 furlong scale model great circle of the Earth, which is a 31680.
Actually, if you go to the next 2 slides, it shows it blown up.
Oh, yes. Here we go. Oh, man. I'm not going to say anything here, just look at this. Confirming previous 2 slides. Now, this is really interesting. Look at this. Top left, you've got the Earth and the moon. Little grey moon sitting on top of the big blue Earth. Now, you've got 2 triangles formed there on either side of the moon. You can see that number 1 and number 2. Now, those triangles, the perimeter, so the adding of the 3 sides of them, are 3168 megalithic mile perimeters, and are separated by the 3168 megalithic mile perimeter square around the moon. So they are 3168 Roman miles wide. So that's the triangles we're talking about. Their hypotenuse are 3168000 fathoms long, which equals 316800000 Roman digits. So in other words, a fathom is 100 times the length of a Roman digit. So they are Pythagorean triangles. Now, still focusing in the centre there, pointing toward the Earth and the moon to the left, the 3 circumferences, you've got 3 circles there, the great outer circle around both the moon and the Earth, and you've got the circle of the Earth and the circle of the moon, so there's 3 circumferences. So the 3 circumferences total in length, 3168000 reeds. And then 31680 miles, that's around the circle of the moon. And then 3168 miles is the 2 inner, yes, that's the 2 inner circumferences. Spheres circumference, so it's the independent spheres, that's the total of the 2 of them. So pointing over to the right now, when you've got the squared moon in the centre of the Earth, which has its square around it, the 31680 miles is the perimeter of the largest square. So the diameters now of the Earth and the Moon are respectively 7,920 miles and 2,160 miles. Totaling the two of them is 10,080 miles. When you multiply by pi, which is simply 22 divided by 7, it equals 31680 miles. Each year the Earth completes an elliptical orbit of the Sun, and 4 times per year the Sun's apparent angular diameter is 31.68 minutes of arc. The Moon's elliptical orbit of the Earth takes about a month, and 4 times per orbit the Moon's apparent angular diameter is also 31.68 minutes of arc. A 3168 megalithic mile perimeter square fits tangent around the Moon. When a solar eclipse occurs, the square around the Moon would also contain the blacked out image of the 316,800 megalithic mile diameter Sun, which is a radius of 316,800 Roman leagues.
I meant to tell you they got it expanded there on the next slide.
Yes. Oh, this is just... So if everything is not yet as clear as mud, there's more.
Well, this is just scratching the surface.
Oh, it is totally.
Like, I haven't gone into music yet.
No, that comes down. So here is the demonstration of the 31.68 minutes of arc as the Moon's elliptical orbit around the Earth, but the Earth, as the Moon crosses the circle around the Earth, its apparent angular diameter is 31.68 minutes of arc.
Well, each of those 4 dots actually is 4 positions.
Now, this is where I'm just going to have a rest because I'm really study these, slow it all down. Down below, the Greek alphabet from alpha to omega and the numbers symbolised by each letter in their numeric values. This is gematria, Lord Jesus Christ, 3168. So, for any one of you battling any evolutionists out there, atheists, evolutionists, Jews, just show them this and ask them to explain it. Now here are the 20 measures used. Now when it's talking about the pyramid cube, it's talking about the pyramid, the Great Pyramid in the centre of the earth, which is the altar to the Lord in the midst of Egypt. Slow it down and go slowly. This is getting used to the different units of measure, all 20 of them, and their equivalent. You can work out painstakingly how many inches or feet or whatever in the measure that you're used to in each one of these. This is what I started to do. It take a very long time to get it all pat, but...
Well, I don't have a problem with it.
You know, right.
What's wrong with you people? It's easy.
Alright. Yeah, just study these. These are amazing. I've been through all of them, but there's...
Well, you haven't been through that one yet?
I have. Well, earlier, yes, I was. This is what I was studying.
I must have nodded up.
This is the Great Pyramid, which has a 3168 Roman pyramid perimeter base, and the circle that fits through it is 3168 Roman feet circumference circle. Then you can see the measure as it's all broken into sections or divided into sections of acres. What that means, roods, trapeziums, the palms, 3168 Roman palm circumference of that lavender circle in the centre there. Oh, this is where it gets really exciting. Now, this is the very interesting here. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J in the down the bottom, A equals 31.68 English cubits. So we're talking about the circle A, top left there. B equals 31.68 yards, C 31.68 families. Now D is the odd one out. It is 380.16 feet, but hang on for this. E equals 3168 Roman palms. F equals 0.3168 Roman miles. G equals 3168 Roman feet. H, so now we're right over to the right-hand side, the blue outside there where it is H. And that is 1 pyramid geographic mile. I, in the down below, is 2 pyramid geographic miles, and J is 4 pyramid geographic miles. So now it's got them as A equals 1 over 128, B is 1 over 164, etc., etc. Now, I just want to cover here the odd one out, D, 380.16 feet, equals, get a load of this, 316.8 Palestinian building cubits.
I wonder why.
Yes, now, get a load of this. When you divide the Palestinian building cubit by the 380.16 feet, it divides into it 0.833333 repeater times. Now if you look up 833 in your concordance, in Hebrew it leads to Asherah. Hello!
Which is the goddess that they worshipped, and that's why the Jews are trying to kill them.
That's right.
Essene. They don't know it, of course. They think they're bloody Muslim.
Right.
Idiots.
Also, if you convert the 38016 feet into inches, so you multiply it by 12 from memory, I'm only going from memory, it was 4536. Anyway, but, oh here, I'll do it here. Because the answer is 144 or 14.4 inches. Let me just do it. It's 380.16 multiplied by 12 inches equals 4561.92 inches divided by 316.8, which is your Palestinian cubit, will give you the length in inches that 1 cubit is, equals 14.4 inches. You're 144. How long have we been saying it's all about Palestine? They are the holy people. This is why they have been set upon. It's always been about Palestine, the Holy Lands, and the 144,000 alabaster white stones that covered the pyramid that have been stolen and broken up and sold throughout Cairo, of all places, that has succumbed to the devil. El Sisi, a Jew. Alright, moving right along. That was just, oh, then over to the right there you can see the musical scale, because the musical scale begins in middle C. So it's C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. I think of the sound of music. Oh dear, a female dear, rare drop of golden sun. And in Roman feet, C equals 198, and then it doubles. D is 396, E 792. These are all doubling the previous in Roman feet, the size of the circle. The musical scale chart, column G. So, oh, now, this one here on the left, there's that confirmation of the Palestinian building cubits, and then the full design Great Pyramid is an analogue of the hemisphere. The base perimeter is 3168 Roman feet. Now, a circle, the base of the pyramid running through as the diameter of a circle that has a circumference of 3168 Roman feet, will be 484 feet high at its highest point, which is the apex of the pyramid. Hello? What else can I pick out of here? The great.
Well, it's sitting on 4 quadrants of the earth.
Yes. Oh, yes. Over here to the right. Each quarter of the pyramid is in a separate quarter of the world's land.
Now you see the line to the right there where it goes, and there's 4 squares, if you like, with a triangle and the height of the pyramid. That passes through the king's coffer.
Right.
So the coffer itself is divided up into 4, so you can do the same thing.
Yes.
Because none of these mathematicians and pyramidologists ever think of things like that. So you take the volume of the king's coffer and you divide that into 4, and it gives you these sacred numbers again.
Right. Now look at this. On that 1 quarter of the pyramid, it's 31.68 million hundredweight in tons. No, that's how
well,
much.
100 weight is 108 pounds,
and
that's how many ghosts there are in the New and Old Testament.
Right. Right. So just have a good look at these, and if your mind is going gaga, it's all good. There we go, we've got reeds, miles on this one, circles within circles, Roman miles, Roman palms, roods, acres. How are we going for time, hon? I think we're way over.
Doesn't matter, keep going.
Anyway, I'll keep going, it's not too far now. So what have we got? Details of the hemisphere on the left. So the surface area of the hemisphere and base equals 0.3168 squared miles. Therefore, the areas inside the 31680 Roman feet circumference circle represent 9 times 0.3168 square miles, which equals 0.3168 square leagues. Alright, here we go. Here is more. Down the bottom there you've got 1 league, or 3.168 Old English miles. Then you've got 3 Roman miles to the right there, equals 1 megalithic mile. More. Oh, look at this. This is the upper portion of the full-scale cone design. Slope angle 29.9419. Well, one pyramid geographically. I'm just going to do what I'm suggesting everybody does. Just
keep going. You're doing well.
Yeah, no, I'm going. The upper portion of the 1 league high full-scale full cone design of Silbury Hill. Must be a hill in England.
Yeah, it is, Silbury Hill.
Yeah. Yes, because everything interplays with the Stonehenge. I think we actually get there somewhere along the line. Oh, Africa is all. Oh, here we go. The rectangle. Oh man, at a latitude of 31.68 degrees north. 35.2 degrees east, which is the latitude and longitude of Bethlehem.
Quiet in there.
And here is Lake Victoria and Africa. Look at the circle there, how the greater circle circumference goes right through the lakes there. You've got Lake Victoria in the pink. You've got, now let me try to explain. This cross here is longitude 31.68 east, and the latitude, this is the horizontal red cross you see here in the center of this, is 3.168 degrees south. Now what is interesting, if you look up the top at these arcs, look to the third in the 3168 cross and the Mount Kilimanjaro to Rift Valley quadrant, there was it was a BP Earthwatch is where I saw it, but we both watched. He couldn't make out what this weird arc was with two exactly that shape chasing Venus on the, what was it, Sochi or Soho? No, Sochi astronomy, following the planets, was trying to work out what it was. Well, it looks like it's this.
So what you have then is the arc of that circle that is from Kilimanjaro to the cross, which is directly below the Great Pyramid, dividing the pyramid into 4 quadrants, which represent the 4 corners of the earth. You have the arc going through all the main lakes of Africa.
Mm. Now, what's this? The Great Circle route.
Stonehenge.
Oh yes, this is where Stonehenge comes in. The Great Circle route on azimuth 316.8 degrees from north starts halfway between Bethlehem and Jerusalem and is 3.168 Old English miles from either point. The terminus is the midpoint between the centres of Stonehenge and the Avebury Monument. The centres are 6.336 megalithic miles apart, which records the equatorial rotation speed per minute. Therefore, the midpoint terminus is 3.168 megalithic miles from the centre of each monument. The azimuth of other Great Circle route is aligned to one diagonal of Stonehenge's 3168-inch long station stone rectangle, which has a 3168 Roman palm perimeter. The terminus is the Great Pyramid, and the full design base is a 3168 Roman palm square with a 3168 Roman feet perimeter. The Christ angle is produced by drawing a RUM, that's R-H-U-M-B line, from the pyramid to or through Bethlehem, where Jesus was born, on latitude 31.68 degrees north. It says the crucifixion was 31680 feet away outside the old city of Jerusalem. Therefore, 31680 symbolises the life of Jesus from birth to the crucifixion.
So the Jews buried the site of the crucifixion and the actual stone that was rolled in front of the tomb because they wanted to eliminate the fact that Jesus ever existed, and it was buried under 100 feet of garbage. And it was Ron Wyatt that actually found the stone, which is 13 feet 2 inches across. It's huge, 2 feet deep. And he also found the Ark of the Covenant, which has so far been responsible for about 6 deaths of Jews who tried to get near it. So, well, they're not Jews. Even if they were Jews, they still don't believe in Jesus, so they wouldn't be able to get near it. Kills you. As soon as you walk near it, it kills you.
Alright, look at this next one.
It's in Jeremiah's grotto beneath the cross, 26 feet. 26 is God in English geometry. The upright where the cross was when the earthquake hit, it split the rock down into Jeremiah's grotto, and my blood dribbled down with the violent storm of water mixed with the blood. Blood dribbled down onto the top of the Ark of the Covenant, and it has been examined, and the blood is shown to be having one parent. That was Mary.
All right, now I don't think I can.
Nearly done. There's your Christ angle. It's the descending passage angle, 18.97. degrees. So what you do is you take two perfect squares, lay them on the side, and then join one corner to the far corner of the other square, and that gives you 2618.97 degrees, what I wanted to say just a minute ago, but I was a bit tired. That's your descending passage angle of the Great Pyramid that points out into outer space at the North Star, which is no longer the case. Once that happened, with the wobble of the Earth axis, the North Star is no longer being viewed from inside the descending passage of the Great Pyramid, and you end up with the time frame has ended, showing that we have crossed over the Milky Way galaxy equatorial line in accordance with the Mayan calendar, which was absolutely correct. It is so accurate, in fact, you can calculate the position of the moon to be accurate within 500 million years, within 33 seconds. Doesn't mean that the creation is 500 million years old. What it means is that if it was allowed to continue for 500 million years, it would only be out the moon lunations by 33 seconds, based on prior information up until we crossed over the Milky Way galaxy, because all these numbers are down and out. They no longer apply on moon lunations and Earth axis.
Okay. There's the Christ angle again. Circle around the Nile Delta with its square.
So there's your four quadrants looking upon the top view of the Great Pyramid. The red cross is the actual point. So you then have four quadrants which you can then start measuring out, which gives you the latitudes, longitudes and so forth, based on Bethlehem.
Right, is Africa, out of Africa. How important Africa is.
So what you can do when you're viewing this at home, you can take a screen capture of that and then print it, paste it into Word and then print it out, and you've got it so you can make a book out of it. This gets a bit deep, but it is extraordinary, to say the least.
Okay, I'll just read bottom left, those red pointers there. You can study this whole page. Now, first one, this symbol is used to represent the centre of the world's land. So this is the pyramid. It is the site of the Great Pyramid. It is crossed by the world's longest land meridian. It is crossed by the world's longest land parallel. It is crossed by the world's longest river. It is crossed by the world's deepest and longest rift valley. It is the pivot point of the Nile Delta quadrant, where the world's longest river leaves the world's biggest desert, where the world's longest river enters the world's most fertile land. One of the few places on the Earth's surface that can support the pyramid's weight. Here is the junction of four right-angle corners of four equal quarters of the world's land. Where the right-angle corner of the Nile Delta quadrant touches the centre of the four corners above. Here is the right-angle junction of the stellar alignment marking the datum year of the pyramid's prophetic design. From here, Christ angle rhumb line to Bethlehem prophetically predicted the time and place of Jesus' birth. From here, the Christ angle rhumb line passes directly through Bethlehem to the place where Jesus was baptized. From here to where Jesus was baptized is 316.8 Roman miles. Half the world's land is north or south of this point. Half the world's land is east or west of this point. Half the area of the world's ocean is east or west of this point. And last point, a great circle aligned to one diagonal of Stonehenge's station stone rectangle passes through here, which is a factor fixing Stonehenge's exact global position. Now, Yah has always said that Stonehenge is all about the Lord Jesus Christ. It's all about him. There's a study on Lake Victoria in Africa. Got the 0 degrees prime meridian and the 0 cross. That's at the equator there. It's all rather marvellous. These diagrams here and all of these circles. You've got circle 1 is a model of circle 4, number 4 moon on the scale of 1 chain to 1 Roman league. Circle 1 is a model of circle 2 earth on the scale of 1 chain to 1 furlong. Then you've got the next one, a scale of 1 inch to 1 megalithic mile, and the next one, a scale of 1 inch to 1 mile. And then you've got the square perimeters around each of them in there. Alright, model Earth, the Victoria Cross through Lake Victoria, the Nile Delta, and yes, the circle around the Nile Delta and the circle around the 3168 Cross, circumferencing Lake Victoria, they are, each of those circles are 1/10 scale models of the moon, that's the Nile Delta, and the Earth in Lake Victoria. So they're an exact proportion. The lines of the 3168 cross go 3168 furlongs north, south, east and west from where 3.168 degrees south crosses 31.68 degrees east longitude. And here again we have seen this before. Alright, moving on to some text. Not long to go now. The demon spirit of all of the earth is identified by the name Rothschild. This is actually repeating, but it's worth hearing again. The number 105 is Eagle or Angel. Rothschild Avenue runs south to a T-section named Harcourt Parade, measuring to the town of Harcourt as we did in the earlier slides. In the state of Victoria, there we find a short road named Eagle Road. Following the coincidence, I measured to my crib from Eagle Road south and back to Eagle Road north. It is the GZ number, 888 miles. Now, once a person overcomes the stupidity of self to consider what proof God in the flesh would have with him, what would his credential be? How about demonstrate a motor that runs on magnets or cure AIDS, cancer, malaria, VD, diabetes 2 and so on? Would that be good enough? Or walk you through the Great Pyramid that was built centuries before the Egyptians discovered the wheel? Or he is genetically the most royal man alive, which if true, one would expect as King of Kings and Lord of Lords must be a factor. However, as the world is consumed by religions that do have the ancient idea that they are all correct, what church among the 36,000 denominations are correct? How would God do it? Would he not have a few aces up his sleeve? Well, thus far, all have rejected myself, who has done all of these miracles. Would you remotely consider it could be true that a man would show up and reveal to the world he is Jesus reincarnate? Very few would say it is true. And take a look in the mirror at the image staring back at you. Could you be one of the 144,000 that Revelation predicts? So with everything that's been mentioned, it's still not good enough. Okay, let's look at the 50th layer of masonry. Take a tape and measure to the far wall. We've walked through this in one of the previous slides, the 5 through 7 inches away. As you walk through the passage into the king's chamber, the first thing you would pass through is the antechamber at 116.26 pyramid inches long, stopping at the far wall. Okay, so this is the arriving at the 31101 number that we did earlier. Go back and refresh your minds with it if you have to. This is the Julian day that the Christ was reborn on, January 11th, 1944. And in his words, hello, we have bingo. And then the following slides are once again the drawing of the chambers and the precise linear measurements. You can stop this and look at it for yourself once again. And when you get the oh, here we go. Here's the 7 names. This is actually the run-in to a previous PowerPoint that Yah had done some time ago. He does this. He uses old PowerPoints to do new ones, and then runs into relevant information that will be repeating but needs to be drummed in, literally. Here's the two birthplaces of first and third daughter. Here's Isaiah 9:6, Hebrew gematria, adding every seventh letter, totals Jesus 888 in Greek. The same. Now, going back to Isaiah 9:6 is the conception date, the 96th day of the year, which is also the anniversary of the resurrection. In Australia time, it is the 6th of April 1943, the conception date. And here is the birth date. In Australia, we write the day number first, which is the 11th, and then the month, the 1st of January 1944. Here are this is the sightings of the comets by Captain Cook, the 30th of August, but noted sighted by Messier in France 22 days earlier, August the 8th. This is in 1769. Then adding 88,888 days to each date in August arrives at, first of all, Yar's 69th birthday, Friday, January 11th, 2013, and down the bottom there is the birthday of Rhiannon, Michelle's daughter, 20th December, but in 2012, a date that everybody was predicting the end of this, that and the other, the Mayan calendar. However, the calendar was out. We actually crossed over to the northern side of the Milky Way galaxy 375 days before, on December the 11th, 2011. And is why the Coriolis of the galaxy is overriding the Coriolis of the Earth, and water is spinning backwards in the north and the southern hemispheres, and nobody has been talking about it. With that, we'll say good night.
Now, if there's any billionaires out there, I do take PayPal.
Yeah, right. Alright guys, we'll
Hasta la vista,
the night
baby.
before it's the night of the eve of August. No, the night of August the 18th, the eve of August.
You want to turn around and give us a smile?